Bonjour, hi, welcome back to another episode of Matthew's Always Wrong. And today we got a big show. A lot of news. I've been away again for a few days, but on the last episode I kind of got focused on a very single but important subject. Obviously that foreign countries were literally controlling the Canadian government. But today I want to talk a little bit less about Canada. I kind of want to talk a little bit more about what's been going on in the world right now, especially in the European Union. Because as we know, in the European Union, they've taken liberalism and wokeism and, these leftards have controlled the government for so long now. And you thought the immigration crisis in Canada was bad. Europe has been absolutely overrun by legal, but especially illegal migrants. Those of the kinds which have low IQ are, cause a lot of crime, especially a lot of sexual violence against the natives, and I mean the native Europeans, because, it's not okay to say that, Europe should be for Europeans, but when you say, Asia should be for Asians, that's okay. I don't know. Anyways, their problems have been a lot bigger than the problems that we face in North America, and to a lesser extent in Canada, because America really is the driving force behind the economic growth of Canada, and a lot of the culture and a lot of the innovation all comes from America. Like it or not, Canada is basically an American proxy state, but so is a lot of the West, and we do need to separate ourselves from America. But the point I was trying to make is that though the problems that we're facing here are not great, the immigration, the housing crisis, the economic stagnation, the decline of all culture, anti-white racism, all these issues, though are prominent, are not as prominent because of the strength of our economy. And really, the pushback and the freedom of the cultural freedom that we've inherited from the Americans compared to what they have in Europe. Because in Europe, it is much worse. Not only do you have unemployment levels much higher, not only do you have a set of economies that have been stagnating a lot more, in fact are really stagnant, but you also have a set of many different cultures, many different belief systems, all of which have seemed to have gone extremely left. And this obviously excludes, Eastern Bloc countries like Hungary with Viktor Orban's and all these people that really have pushed back against the tide of, modern liberalism. But recently they just had an election for the European parliamentary bloc, and this isn't an election for each of the prospective countries, which I think a lot of people are getting wrong, because a lot of people don't understand European politics. And again, who cares, right? It's Europe. I don't really care. But what these elections were essentially for was for the override, the top level of government in the European Union is the European Union bloc, where you have around 750 members of the European Parliament which are elected from, all of the countries within the European Union. So France gets some, Germany gets some, all the people in the EU vote people for the European Parliament Commission. And these people set, the laws and set the policies for the European Union as a whole. So again, this isn't for the individual countries' parties. This isn't for, who will become president or prime minister in each of the countries. No, this is just sending members of parliament to the highest level of government, which has, let's be honest, less power than the actual countries itself. But ignoring that, so what did we see? All the news outlets spoke about a massive far-right wave ravaging the European parliamentary elections. These far-right nationalists, these populist nationalist movements are taking over. Which again, what's so bad about, a nationalist populist movement taking over? But whatever. But the news made it seem like, and the results of these elections made it seem like that there was this massive red wave, or this, conservative wave, this ultra far right, extremism that ran through and dominated the elections, which didn't really materialize, let's be honest. If you actually look in it, the same people who have been ruling, the socialists, the Christian Democrats or whatever, who've been running the thing, they also continue to hold most of the power. They formed a coalition. They're going to continue running it. So all of these things that, even though, these people, the tides are turning, it didn't actually change anything, because the two ruling parties are still these left-wing, socialist parties. So again, all this enthusiasm I don't really see as cause for excitement. But let's look at the actual results. One of the biggest winners, obviously, was Meloni's Brotherhood of Italy, I think, party. Meloni, who won her Italian election, became the prime minister or whatever of Italy a few years ago, mainly on a promise of anti-immigration and far-right, I wouldn't say far-right, I would just say right-wing, reform. Because Italy, who has one of the worst demographics in the world in terms of population, their average age is like 50 or something. Their birth rate has plummeted. Unemployment is extremely high. There is very little growth in the economy. And there's a lot of issues regarding it. But one of the things they've been very socially conservative about is protecting their culture, because the Italian culture is, one of the most... And I think we should be taking more examples from what they do in terms of culturally and heritagely protecting the Italian race, the Italian culture. But the main issue that's been facing Italy for the past couple years is a massive wave of illegal migrants coming from northern Africa, crossing the river and just walking in, and then getting a bunch of government welfare. And you thought the issue here, where asylum seekers would get money straight from the government, which I don't support, by the way, but in Europe it's next level, truly. These people who cross the river on boats throw away their passports so that they can claim to be asylum seekers, even though they're just illegal migrants. A lot of them who have criminal records, a lot of them who are literally retarded because their IQ is so low. They don't know how to use spoons, these people. And now, he's just racist. No, it's not about that. It's about that these people who literally have no education, literally cross boats and literally threw away their passports to claim to be, I'm a persecuted victim, I'm this, I'm that, when it's really not the case, and that didn't actually happen. But once the reason why they have such an immigration crisis is because they know, these people from Northern Africa, from the Middle East, know that once they get into these European countries, they're going to get paid. They get 4 5-star hotels, free Wi-Fi, free phones, free money, free meals. It's costing the European taxpayers billions and billions and billions of dollars, especially in Britain. Especially in, Ireland is a big, they're having massive problems over there. France, they're having big issues. Sweden, in fact, is having some of the worst multiculturalism issues, and they're really pushing back against refugees. But I'm not going to get into that right now. Talk about Italy. Their immigration crisis has been horrible, where, again, people, 30, 50 people get on a raft, just cross the border, and just literally run on Italian shores, and then the government houses them, pays for their food, gives them money, gives them iPhones, free Wi-Fi, whatever it is. So these people, they know that once they get in, they're basically paid for, and then once they commit crimes, they don't even get deported. They get these light sentences, and then they go out and they rape more kids. It's kind of a process over there. But Melani's Brotherhood of Italy's party, the entire promise was, let's get rid of, let's stop the boats, stop the immigration, stop the illegal immigration. And what has she done? She's been in power for over a year now. In 2023, 155,000 migrants entered Italy. Is that higher or lower than 2022? Again, she campaigned. Her entire campaign was based off of, let's cut the migrant numbers, let's slow down the boats. That's 52,000 migrants higher than 2022. It's coming out a lot of that, maybe she wasn't really the conservative right-wing candidate that everyone was thinking she was going to be. And this happens again a lot with, right-wing conservative parties where they make all these promises and then they get elected and they're like, no, I don't want to fix immigration. And again, we see the parallels. We see it in, we see it in Canada. Pierre Poilievre, he's not going to do anything about immigration. Everyone flamed me for saying that online. They're like, oh, you're just a hater. You're just blaming all these problems on migrants, even though, it's very obvious that these low-skilled, low IQ, criminals cause crime, cause the housing to go up. But again, I don't want to get another arguments with a couple keyboard warriors on YouTube. So her entire promise was, let's get rid of the migrants, stop the migrants coming in, and then she wins, and then she doesn't want to do anything about it, which, shout out to her at least for lying. I mean, if you can lie that well and convince everyone, shout out to you. But it was kind of like Trump, who, he made all these promises in 2015, 2016, and then when he actually got elected, he never actually built the wall. So it seems like a recurring theme with right-wing candidates where they just don't do anything that they actually promise to do. Anyways, then it just got announced that they're building Italy and Albania just announced a new deal where they're going to build massive migrant processing camps in Albania in order to, let the system process all these migrants, not stop them, just process more of them. This would allow tens of thousands more to get processed and then enter into Italy. And you think it's not that big of an issue, and I'm just exaggerating all these things, but there's these examples where you've got these tiny Italian islands with all these native Italians in it, maybe a few thousand people, and in a single day the entire population of that island comes in on a boat from Africa and just runs wild. Seems like a problem, maybe. But no, I'm a racist, I'm a bigot, I hate all immigrants. That's the bottom line. Shut up. Okay. Another big winner, especially probably the second biggest winner, and the one that made definitely the most news, was Marine Le Pen's party, her right-wing party, did very well. In fact, it did so well that President Emmanuel Macron announced that he's calling for a snap election in France because his party did so poorly in these European elections. His parties did so poorly that he has to call for an election. Which, at least that's, shout out to him for recognizing that you're unpopular, Justin Trudeau. But again, it goes that, maybe he thinks that he can win this again, that this is just a fluke, and that his party can actually retain power in France, even though, polling shows that he's going to get absolutely decimated. Even the last election, he barely edged out a victory. And, France as well. France is having a big issue, especially with the Islamist Muslims, who have really taken over the city and who have created, essentially these micro communities within France where everyone speaks Arab or whatever language they speak. They don't speak French. Everyone has their own culture that's aside from French. And again, this goes to show that, multiculturalism doesn't work. You need monoculturalism. You need, you could have several different races, but under one culture. We don't necessarily need, well, ideally you'd have mono, ethnicity in the countries, because every country should be its own people, but, that's too much to ask. So maybe we should have monoculturalism, where, you come in from every different country, but then you become Canadian, you become French. You come in from Algeria, from Morocco, from Sudan. You go to France, and then you become French. You learn French, become part of the French economy, become part of the French culture. You get your baguette and cheese, and then you fully integrate instead of going to France from the country you fled, because the country you fled was so bad and so not economically developed and had no rights whatsoever, or whatever, you want to claim that the reason why you left. But then you go to that France, and then, you set up a food stand on the floor, just like how they would in India, and then you only speak whatever language you want to speak that's not French, and then you also don't integrate whatsoever, and you get mad. And in fact, you get mad at the French Europeans because they're just racist, and they're the worst, and, you don't feel safe and sound in France because there are too many French people. So Marine Le Pen, massive victory. Her as well, she's running on right-wing policies, where now she's saying that if you're a migrant, you do crime, you're going to get deported, and that, they need to lower the illegal and legal immigrations into France. But there's a few things that Marine Le Pen's been doing that made me seem that she's not fully far right, and that maybe she's more like a Maloney type character, where she's trying to distance herself from the far right. She just wants to be the mainstream right, and she wants to distance herself from the far right extremists, these populist, nationalistic people who are completely against our ideologies, these white supremacy, which I'm so tired about hearing. Yeah, white supremacists. Yeah, these people are the real threats. But she's been trying to distance herself, especially from the AfD in Germany, which is I think, one of the only real right-wing parties in the EU that's actually, based on anything legit, and that would probably actually go through with its policies. But she's trying to distance herself, saying that, she condones that certain AfD members said that, would you denounce every SS members? And then they said, no, it's based on a case-by-case situation. And she's like, whoa, I don't support these extremists. Maybe we should also bring in more migrants, huh? Maybe we should do that too. All right, Le Pen, is she better? Probably than Macron. Probably. But is she the solution? No. And then again, yeah, so the AfD also won quite largely, not to the extent that Le Pen or Maloney won, but they're seeing larger and larger presence, especially with the youth. Apparently the young people in Germany really like the AfD. They really like this new song that's been raging in Germany, Ausländer Raus, I believe it's pronounced, and it's basically foreigners out, if I believe that's the correct translation. That's the whole song. Germany for Germans, in foreigners out, or something like that. And now all the migrants are getting mad because they're like, oh, this is racist. Yeah, maybe listen to the song maybe if you don't like it. But the EFD is probably the most right wing out of all of these parties that I've mentioned so far. Again, they also believe in, you know, German culture, and they believe that maybe the migrants should leave, or they should stop having them. You know, stop bringing in more and more of them. And again, you see this again where you have these ghetto communities where again, you know, it's just Afghanistan 2.0 in Germany, or it's, you know, Algeria 2.0 in Germany, where nobody speaks German, where everyone goes, well, I like it because it's kind of like where I came from. Yeah, then why did you leave? Oh, because the government wants to give out just free money to you people. Oh, I get it. So you want the standard of living, but you also want the culture, you want everything else from your old country that you left. Maybe there's a reason why your country wasn't doing so well. Oh, it's because of American and, you know, the invaders. Yeah, that's the issue that these countries for thousands of years have